Today's May 23rd. There's a serious issue with this bullpen right now. Absolutely blowing the series against the Giants. Even hitting grand slams isn't enough. It's Friday. It's Memorial Day weekend. The vibes are not high. You're listening to the Bridge to Buctober podcast. Yins, guys. Thank you for listening to the Bridge to Buctober podcast, where we talk all about them Pittsburgh Pirates and that. My name is Josh, and it is Friday. Jake is not going to be on the show today. He's at work, and I am recording this immediately following the loss to the Giants, the absolute blow up of the bullpen, whatever you want to call it, because I'm heading on vacation, and so we're going to be getting out of here shortly, about an hour and a half or so. So I got to get this thing done and got to get it out to you guys. You know, Friday's a good day of the week. Friday's a fun day. You know, you've got your Hawaiian shirt day.
Friday is Hawaiian shirt day.
The problem is we're bummed out.
Yeah.
Grand slams aren't enough to win the series against the Giants. You had a grand slam back-to-back days. You had Jones Skeens going. All of those things should have equaled really a sweep. And you let it get away. And there's a lot of reasons for it. We've got roster decisions. We've got ineffective relievers. We've got bad management, bullpen management. We've got a first baseman on the roster who is probably part of the reason for all of that. We're going to get into all this. We're going to get into all of it. What do you say? Martin Perez bounced back, 2 runs. Doesn't get through enough. I mean, the walks were too much, so it was whatever. Bednar looked good. I'm looking at my notes here. Bay called up for the series, but they were short on a bullpen arm. And so you're wondering, okay, well, this is going to be like a one-day thing. Ended up being a 2-day thing, ended up hurting. And, you know, you got momentum, whatever. O'Neal Cruz, without skipping over it, O'Neal Cruz, the story of Tuesday, with 3 exciting at-bats. You know, exit velocities they're fun. They're like a big slam dunk, right? It's 2 runs. It's 2 points for a slam dunk, same as a layup. But there's an excitement that comes along with that dunk. There's a highlight reel that comes along with that dunk, and so on and so forth. And so I think that it's still a fun thing. However, more importantly, he hits the double to tie the game. That's the more important piece of the whole thing. The comeback on where I got my days all mixed up now. Today's Thursday. The comeback on Tuesday was a lot of fun. And the fact that O'Neal Cruz was able to do those things in the midst of it, I think that celebrating those types of things is still a lot of fun. Obviously, O'Neal Cruz has some things that we want to see from him that he's not showing us right now. And that's acceptable as well. But that doesn't mean that it's worthless. And we've seen some comments about how it's worthless. And that's just, I just don't agree with it. However, 4 runs to tie the game, walk it off in the 10th. Nick Gonzalez has been great. I don't think anybody is really going to argue that. I think that I don't wear hats right. Is what I think. I'm looking at I never look at me this big, and now I'm like, this hat's on crooked. And it's backwards for me, so I don't, know how to fix it. Anyway. the story of the series, though, comes in the next two games. And the roster decision I'm going to start with, the bullpen woes in general. You could point to a lot of different things, and I've seen a lot of people pointing to essentially Derek Shelton only, and he is certainly not innocent in this scenario. He is he's part of the problem as far as the management. However, I'm always going to try to give benefit of the doubt, play different sides of the fence, try to look at all angles, however you want to say it. And when you're short a guy, you're short a guy. And so sometimes you make decisions based on that alone. And there was a couple times where I think he made that decision based on the fact that he was short an arm. And I don't know whose fault it is. Obviously, we don't have the inside track there. Is there a chance that Shelton is asking for maybe a little bit more Rowdy Tellez because he's directly working with him now? Is there a chance that Derek Shelton's saying, just give me another week, just give me another, you know what I mean? Like, what's a week going to do? What's going to happen? We'll get into Tellez a little bit. I want to stick to the bullpen. The walks are huge. Specifically looking at Wednesday's game, Chapman comes in, walks 3 straight guys. Chapman, to me, was the reason. I'm always going to go to the players, right? I want to give the players credit for when they win. And so at the same time, I'm going to give the players the bulk of the blame for when they don't perform. It's not Shelton shouldn't have went to Chapman there. He's got to go to Chapman. Chapman's on the roster. Chapman's being paid to go out there and execute. He has to give the ball to Chapman. Chapman walks 3 straight guys. So this all comes down to Holderman never has to come in the 7th inning if not for Chapman walking 3 straight guys. Holderman goes the 8th, or what? Now I'm confused. What inning actually was that? That was the 8th. I knew this was going to be something here. I got to look at my notes here. I knew I was going to. Jones went 6. Chapman comes in. Okay, so I'm pulling up the box score here, guys. Bear with me. Okay, so Stratton went 1. Chapman comes in the 8th. Holderman should have had the 9th in this day. It seemed that Bednar, because he had pitched X amount of days in X amount of days, I don't know, 4 out of 5 days or something goofy like that. Or maybe it was 3 out of 4, so he was unavailable. You know how they're going to do. And to be honest with you, I mean, that's better than running him ragged the way they did a few years ago, so I'm not going to complain about that. If he's not available, he's not available, that's fine. But Chapman comes in the 8th, walks 3 guys, and Holderman has to come in the 8th. Now, he comes into a jam. It's the little dribbler, right? It's the little dribbler. He gets that. He ends up getting out of it. I think only 1 run, or was it 2 runs? No, just the 1 run scores in the 8th. And when a relief pitcher, and this is something that I talked about, if you guys listen to us last year, the year before, I mean, this is something that I have always talked about. And Jake and I both. If a reliever comes into a jam, high leverage situation, adrenaline high, gets out of the jam, when he goes into the dugout and sits down, he's done. He cannot go back out onto that field. He is done. It's different. If you start the inning and it builds up into something and you get out of it, you can reset and start a new inning. That's because that's your expectation, multiple innings. These guys coming in and getting out of a jam, if you had to go to Holderman early, he's done. And Shelton has done this time and time and time again, and occasionally it works for him, and occasionally it comes back to bite him. And in this scenario, Holderman runs into a jam. He has to bring in Majinski. Majinski gets out of the jam, and then they sends Majinski back out to do the same thing. And this is where it comes down to, in game 1, you were shorthanded in the bullpen. That should have never went to game 2. You should have been able to say, well, we had to use some bullpen arms. So, I mean, our starter came out in the 5th inning when we were short an arm. They should have absolutely 100% gotten somebody there on that day. Wednesday night, they should have had another reliever. You cannot go short in the bullpen for a whole series, all because you want to keep Tellez around, all because you want to give Jack Sawinski another at-bat. Sawinski ends up being the casualty. He goes down for Jose Hernandez, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago. It's probably a time for Jack Sawinski to go down, and I'm a big Jack Sawinski fan. I believe that sending him down is vital because this team is going to go, if this team is going to go, backtrack, Jack Sawinski is going to be a part of it. He is important to the success of this team in 2024. Beyond, I don't know. But for this year, if this is what you're going to get from Sawinski, then this team is going to fall short of their goals. I truly believe that. I think that that's your power bat that is going to sit in the middle of this thing. And if he just improves slightly from last season, that's a huge addition to this, or not addition, but a huge asset to this team. I mean, you're talking about 30 homers if it's a slight improvement. That's just 4 more homers and he's at 30. So sending him down to get him right is critical for this team. He will be back. This is not a Rowdy Tellez situation where it's cut ties, DFA, he's gone, here we go. That's not what this situation is. So anyway, you blow a Jones quality start, who again just continues to impress with the fact that when he goes out there and he doesn't have his best stuff, he's still an effective pitcher. He goes 6, he gives up 3, a career high 3 walks, and he's ticked off about them all. I love that. I love that. Sent back out for the 9th, not good. Majinski gets out of the 9th, sent back out for the 10th, not good. Reynolds grand slam, looked like that was going to be all they needed. Pirates don't score again after that. At least you can say on Thursday, the grand slam by Joey Bart, at least Reynolds was able to add a solo shot there. Still wasn't enough. Still wasn't enough. Hernandez comes in, who, by the way, shows up at the game in the 3rd inning, and then you go to him first in the 7th inning. It seems like that guy's head had to be spinning. But he just gives up the 1 home run, and then you have to call on Stratton to get him out of a jam. Once Stratton comes out, I'm going to say it again. Once that inning was over, I sent out a tweet saying, will they learn from yesterday's mistakes? Will they learn? If they send Stratton back out there, they don't. And they did the exact thing. He gives up, 3 straight hits, 2 straight hits? No, I think it was 2 straight hits, then the homer, and then 2 more hits. He records 1 out in the process, gives up 5 runs. All in the 8th inning. And you have to go to Chapman. So one of those runs was driven in when Chapman was out there. Chapman's not throwing hard. He throws a couple pitches in the dirt. One gets a stolen base. A wild pitch gets him to 3rd. Or no, that was the pass ball. A fastball right down the middle. And Joey Bart misses it. It's just like they can't get out of their own way. And that seems to be one of the issues there. And maybe that's just the thing. They felt things snowballing. They kind of, that's a panic moment for a lot of players, a lot of teams. That's you start seeing things like this, and there's a trend where it's getting blown and things are going on like that. Like this is honestly like, this is the way it happens. This is the way it falls. It snowballs on you, and it's one thing and the next, and All right, let's move on to Shelton. we've talked about what happened, right? We've addressed that. Let's move on to Shelton. And you can drill down on Shelton. I am sending him back out there, right? What is driving these decisions? Especially Wednesday. He's given a roster. Now he got his extra bullpen guy, but he's given a roster. And the manager has to manage with that roster. He has to ask pitchers, regardless of who it is, if he's on the roster, if it's Jose Hernandez, if it's Aroldis Chapman, if it's Hunter Stratton, if it's Colin Holderman, whoever it is, he has to be able to ask his pitchers to step up and execute. He has to be able to do it. He has to be able to rely on his players. They're on his roster. They're on the team. If you're just gonna coddle pitchers in certain situations, then you're never going to, you're going to have to rely on the same guys over and over again. And that's what we did a couple of years ago with Bednar that started this whole thing. He was overworked. And you can't get into that situation again. And I know that, money's money, right? Chapman's not getting it done in the least. I mean, I don't know where you go with that. It's not something that you wait around and give him opportunities to figure it out. He's not a young player, but there is money invested into this player. And so there's a thought. And you heard Shelton say this about Rowdy, even though that's not money invested. That's a very small contract for Rowdy. So I was surprised as much to hear it, but we need to get him going. It was the quote he said, because, and he's saying he's important. I think he's important because you don't have very many options. But as far as Chapman goes, he's important because you invested money into him. And so it is important to get something out of him. You will play the long game with Aroldis Chapman. If he gets hot, he becomes tradable. Without that, he's not. And you need him to become tradable, if nothing else, or just to be good. But right now, he's not either one of those things. And that's going to be a problem. I don't think that you have to get $10.5 million worth of production out of him. I think maybe $8.5 million. $2 million of that was just, we were aggressive so we could get him. They were falling short on a lot of them. We talked about Imanaga before and how the Pirates were close on him and missed out. And they were like, boy, we can't keep missing out. There was another one too, and I can't think of who it was that they were in on and missed out just by Manaya. With that one wasn't quite as known as Imanaga. But either way, there's money invested. You know how this thing works. They're gonna have to find a way to get something from him, and he's gonna have to find a way to execute and produce. That's the player's job. I don't know, man. I think that as far as Shelton calling the name and getting him out there to do something, I'm not blaming him for putting Chapman in. I'm blaming Chapman for needing Holderman to get him out of the jam. But then I'm going to double down on Shelton for sending Holderman back out there. Just go with Majinski in the ninth. But then once again, what they're trying to do is, but we're short a man. So we have to kind of see if we can get something out of him, because if you send Majinski out there and he blows it and we go into extras, who's next? You know what I mean? You had Luis Ortiz, who just threw 2 2/3 the night before. And so I understand, when you're strapped there, where do you go? What do you do? The Pirates are going to have to start finding ways to get help in this bullpen. And whether that's somebody who's already on the roster, whether that's Martin Perez to the bullpen after a couple shaky starts and Quinn Priester coming back up and learning his lessons at the major league level, that puts Martin Perez in the bullpen. We know that he's capable of doing that. whether it's Braxton Ashcraft, who right now is in Double-A and seems to have kind of turned his season into, like, at least the last few starts has been really good. Do I have that in my notes? Couple starts in a row at the end of April, 1st through May, 4 runs each. And then his last 3 starts giving up 1 run in 15 innings. He's already on the 40-man. He's already 24 years old and in Double-A. There's been speculation of him going to Triple-A right now. But this is a guy who missed the 2022 season. And in 2023, he pitched somewhere over like 50 innings. And so he's not going to go out and throw 100 innings, 125 innings this year. It's going to be somewhere in there. And somewhere between 50 and 100. I don't know what their plan is for his workload. His last start, I think he went 3 innings. But is Braxton Ashcraft somebody that they can turn to and say, okay, it's a good way to limit his innings. Let's give him a cup of coffee in the show, find out what pitches works, what pitches don't. Maybe he's some sort of spark as far as the bullpen goes. I know that's usually a thing that is reserved for like lefties, when you think of Chris Sale and David Price, and I'm trying to think, there was a couple that we were talking about not too long ago that were lefties who were starters who got their cup of coffee for a year or two in some cases in the bullpen, and you got to limit those innings. And then, you get stretched out over the offseason and then next spring training. Like, you just start over and you get stretched out and you're right back to the starting rotation, maybe sitting in AAA or, however that works. Maybe that's an option they go to. They're going to have to find some guys on waivers. They're going to have to get arms in here to get them innings and hope that you can find somebody to stick for a minute. Fleming's going to end up being back, I'm sure. But, you look at AAA right now, and, Majinski wasn't doing great there, and he hasn't really translated up here either. You've got Fleming actually just got shelled a little bit. But I'm trying to think of who else is down there who's kind of struggling a little bit. Ryder Ryan's been kind of bouncing back and forth and had mixed results. Brett Honeywell he's still in Indy right now, but he's not doing well either. So there's a lot of options that just, that maybe we were looking at in spring training and maybe some of us liked them and it hasn't translated. But they're going to have to throw innings. You're going to have to figure out some way. You've got an empty spot. Rowdy's probably on his way out. You're going to have spots. You're going to have to make some moves, get some guys, and see if you can find somebody to stick. This bullpen not only needs better pitchers, but some of these guys are going to need a reset button. I don't think Colin Holderman's one of them. I think he's been really good. I think that for him, he shouldn't have went back out for the 9th inning. Bednar looks really good in both games he pitched. So I think if you can just say, okay, we believe Bednar's back. All starters are going to run into a little bit. Camilo Duvall's awesome, and we hit him up on Tuesday and came back in that game. It's going to happen. But he looks like he's at least effective, even if he's not 100%, like a 90%. David Bednar's still a really good pitcher, if that's where he's at. Just can't do this. Can't do this. It does. It makes a lot of people question about Roansy Contreras and why we let him go. I was on board with that move. I thought that was what needed to happen at the moment. But this is what happens. And, you're always going to second guess. You're always going to go back. Hindsight's 20/20, all those things. But going short an arm in the bullpen in a series, just not a fan. You can do it for a day if there was a reason why you were going to do it for a day. The problem is maybe it was because Logan Webb doesn't face lefties well, but then Tellez wasn't even in the lineup. So I don't really know. But I believe that the Rowdy Tellez situation is probably part of what's to blame here. And I got to tell you, if it didn't get worse in this series, I'm not sure what we're doing. I'm not sure what we're doing at all. The only thing I can figure is they're searching far and wide for a trade partner, that somewhere somebody's going to say, yeah, we'll take him. And you're going to send Rowdy and cash and try to get an arm, maybe a bullpen arm. Maybe that's what this is all about. Maybe they're trying to get some kind of bullpen help. Maybe it's a 4A reliever who's not on the 40-man but having a hot season and the Pirates can give him an opportunity or something. I have no idea. I don't know why a team that's in that type of situation would be willing to take on Rowdy in that case. I don't know, unless they're just gonna make the trade and then designate him and hope to fix him in AAA. I don't know that he takes it. But I don't know. I don't know if they're trying to offload that. I mean, it's not a big contract, like $3.2 million. Just let it go. Let it go. Consider it the rest of that contract as like, we're going to pay this to be actually better, because him not being on the field right now is better. He might figure it out, but if you're a team that's saying we intend on winning, he's not going to help this team do it right now. Not in the state that he's in. It feels inevitable. I think everybody kind of thought it was already coming with the reports that kind of flew, and then they were backed out. There was like a backpedal. And I wonder if it's even like we weren't showing our hands. And so, when Mackey goes on 93.7 and says that he's going to be gone, and then all of a sudden he tweets like, hey, I misspoke. I've been told he's not gone. Did they keep him through this series just to say like, you don't know what we're going to do? Like, if so, that's ridiculous. I certainly hope that that's not the case. If Rowdy Tellez is the reason, that's even worse. That's even worse. I just can't. I mean, this is as bad as it gets. Like I said, man, back-to-back series is where it was just unbelievable. And he's checked out, it looks like. I mean, I don't want to say checked out. Like, I believe that players want to do well for their career and for the team that they're playing on, for the Pirates for taking a chance on him, all those things. I believe that he does want to do well. I think he's completely defeated. It's not a give up thing. I think he's just, when you've been beaten to a pulp, man, there's just he's got nothing left. It looks like, and this came on not, it feels like it came on quick, but this is a long time coming. Like, he's never come back from being injured, and it looks like he's just not going to. But maybe some more time, maybe some more Pilates. I don't know. But the situation needs tended to. This bullpen needs tended to. The Braves are coming into town, and they are not going to take it easy on this bullpen. There's some serious. I'm recording this right after, so no post game for me. No, I didn't get to see anything, so I don't know what's in the works. I don't know if there's anything being said. I guess I can kind of refresh some things here and see if there's anything, but I can't get over, for me, and I know Jake is in the same boat. I can't get over when you bring in a guy. Okay, so Derek Shelton said it's a concern. Our bullpen has to get better. Said the same thing about Tellez. Has to be better. That's just what it comes down to. He's answering these with these very short things, saying they've got to be better. There's accountability. Shelton looked mad. Shelton looked upset. You want that from your manager. You want some accountability to happen. Maybe there's going to be something there. Either way, this one hurts. It's not all bad. The Pirates scored 5 and 7 runs in those 6 runs in those games. There's some good there. I know that 4 of those runs are coming on the heels of a couple grand slams. I know at the same time, you're doing this. I'm trying to think of the Brian Reynolds piece here. Was there any outs when Reynolds? There was one out when Reynolds hit his. There was 2 outs when Joey Bart hit his. And it was right after a Rowdy just pop up with 1 out. But either way, there's some good. There's some good. Paul Skeens was still great. It seemed like he was intentionally pitching a little bit different to try to go deeper in today's game, which he got through 6 again. Very effective. I mean, it's everything you want to like. I mean, you have quality starts from Jones and Skeens on back-to-back days. It's those guys that you want to come through. They're not going to see Atlanta, though. Those guys won't pitch till Detroit. You've got to win those games, especially when you had a 5 and a 4 run lead in each of those games. The offense is not, it's always something, right? The offense is not the problem right now. They're actually, putting together decent things. And I know there's runs after Reynolds' grand slam. There's nothing after that. And I think that they built on that the next day where there was some things after that. I mean, you had the grand slam by Bart, and then the following inning, you had 2 guys on. You were ready to, in another situation to come through. Came up short, but you were in another situation. Pirates today were 1 for 9 both days, runners in scoring position. Obviously, those ones were grand slams. But I don't know. I just still think there's some good signs there. There's still, like, starting pitching is still a thing. I mean, Martin Perez, a couple bad outings, but other than that, you still have good starting pitching right now. You've got some offensive numbers showing up. You figure out the bullpen. Nobody has a complete team all the time, and when you do, you go on runs like what the Phillies are doing right now. So figure out ways to limit the damage and move on. But that's not blowing 2 leads when you had a real opportunity to really sweep that series against the team that is right around the same place as you right now. They let them get away. Like I said, the silver lining is they were in position to win a couple games. Then the problem is the storm took over. I'm just trying to look at something, guys. Trying to look at something. Braves are coming into town for the weekend. If you're going to be at any of the games, that's try to take some good vibes to the games. Try to get some wins there. I will be on vacation. We are heading to Virginia Beach with my wife's family, so we'll have a nice, relaxing, fun trip there. There will be a show Monday. We recorded last night, and it'll be a little bit special. It will not talk about the Braves series, but Jake and I did step in and record some stuff about Memorial Day, and it'll be a good one. It's a fun one. We had some good conversation about a few things. We did a Tigers preview still, so we'll go from there. Braves are in the middle of a long stretch. They're coming into Pittsburgh. They don't have another off day until June 3rd. They had to they had a rain out, which caused a doubleheader in the midst of all this, and we're going to get both of those guys who started both ends of that. It's not necessarily been pretty. I mean, right now they're chasing a red-hot Phillies team, and they are behind. They lost 3 of 4 to the Padres, including that was the series with the doubleheader, which really they get one of the doubleheader games, and we've said a million times it's really hard to sweep a doubleheader. That was when they split. They lost the other 2 games they played. It's a big series for the Braves. They're chasing the Phillies. Phillies are going to Colorado for the weekend. They're not going to slow down at all. Last I looked, it was TBDs to pitch, but I'm going to assume it's going to be Bryce Elder, Chris Sale, and Ronaldo Lopez. That's what it's going to be. It's probably going to be Falter, Keller, Perez for the Pirates. It seems to be pretty obvious. Elder coming off a 3-inning, 7-run performance against the Padres. Sale and Lopez through both ends of the doubleheader. Lopez, 6 1/3, giving up 2 runs, a walk, 4 Ks, 1.54 ERA this season. Not going to be easy. Sail through the nightcap. He actually won his game 7-1, 7 innings, a 5 hit ball, no runs, no walks, 9 Ks, and a 2.22 ERA. So they got their work cut out for him. And obviously that offense, I mean, I know Acuna is not Acuna right now. Even year Acuna, if that's a thing. But you guys know who's on this team. I mean, they're probably the best roster you could argue between them and the Dodgers. Certainly, but offensively and everything. But they've got some down years. They're still a good team though. A down year for the Braves just means they're not in first place and there's somebody better than them. So at least with this roster that they have right now. But this is a tough one. This is a tough series to lose to the Giants. Heading into the Braves, this is Major League Baseball. I don't care if you're going to play the Rockies. You're not getting an easy game. You're not getting an easy series. This is what it takes. Pirates are now 23-28 and just, falling away a little bit. It is still May. As you'll hear on Monday, I think Memorial Day is an important day in the baseball season. It's really when I consider everything prior to Memorial Day early on in the season. And I've said that a bunch, and I've had a couple people say, I don't think it's early anymore, and it's early. Memorial Day, this is when we kick in full force to, okay, it's not early anymore, which is why I'm saying that my patience has run thin with some of these guys. So anyway, you got to bounce back here. I mean, you got to find a way. You're getting buried again, and you can't keep doing that. You got 2 days off next week. I expect everyone to be available for all these games. You've got Monday off, which is super annoying, and I'll talk enough about that on Monday. You've got Thursday off as well with just the 2-game series in between. Everybody should be available, but you also have a couple days after this weekend to make moves if you need to. And I fully expect this team to play this weekend as if their season is coming up to like some crossroads here. That's just the way I feel, and maybe that's just because it's half an hour after the game ended, and I'm
bummed out.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. Either way, happy Friday. Enjoy your long weekend. You don't have to work Monday, probably. I know some of you do. I know Jake has to work Monday, but enjoy your weekend. It's Friday. I don't know what to tell you, but my time here on your Friday or your Saturday, whenever you actually get an opportunity to listen to this, is up. Tune in Monday. If you didn't listen to last Monday, go back and listen, but tune in Monday for Memorial Day show. It'll be fun. We had a good conversation last night, so the Bucs got to get better. The bullpen's got to get better, guys. Hang in there. It's still baseball. It's still fun. Let this one go, and have a good weekend. Let's go Bucs.
Thanks for listening to my dad and Uncle Jake on the Bridge to Buctober podcast. Follow them on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Bridge2Buctober. Don't forget to subscribe so you know when new episodes are released. Clear the deck, cannonball coming, and let's go Bucs.